Rescue? Sorry. Why it was so loud.
No doubt about it.
Greg Bronfman, River Woods.
Les Adams, River Forest. Pardon me, River Forest Acres.
Ray Meow, Woodside Ranch, and Rural Fire District number 2.
Gladys McDonald, I'm from Rock West, and I'm the Firewise person now.
Okay.
And Mike Flanagan, Eagle Crest Ridge, Community Wildfire Protection with Jeff.
Have a seat up front. Have a seat
Oh,
up front. Have a seat up front.
absolutely.
The big girls, big
Good
boys.
plan.
So thank you, everybody, for showing up. And I was going to ask the question, but evidently we're being recorded. So, and somebody want to give just a real quick summary of the picnic?
Give me just a second, I'm pulling up some stuff from the newsletter.
Is it better for me to sit there?
It doesn't matter where you, it's probably, introduction, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Suzanne Butterfield, Aubrey Park,
Good to see
HOA.
you.
Firewise.
First of all, how many here went to the picnic? Okay, great.
All right, so, yeah, the barbecue was fun. It was nice to get everyone together and kind of have just, a little something more informal. And it was probably about 50-ish people that showed. We gave out some awards. We recognized Melissa Steele for her work, and she got an agency individual award. We gave out 3 Spark Plug awards, one for Elizabeth Whitey, Lon Lee, and Kelly Esterbrook. And then we also gave out 2 awards for communities, Deschutes River Woods and Aubrey Butte.
Right.
So introduction from the online people.
Oh, you guys want to introduce yourselves that are online?
Yeah, hi, this is Ken Kennedy. I'll be here until we're evacuated. We're pretty close. Level 1 and right across the street's level 2, so we'll see what happens.
Oh,
Where are you?
Oh, my God.
I didn't know.
Oh, Wild River up there by Pringle Falls, right off of Burgess Road. And we got the Wiki Up fire, the 445 going on. That's the one that's really moving.
Hi, I'm Brenda Cullen. I live at Mount Bachelor Village in Bend.
thank you. We have the minutes, and hopefully everybody had a chance to look at those. I had made a mistake, though. They were still listed as the March minutes, but it was actually the May 16th meeting. Sorry about that. But anybody have any comments or follow-up they'd like to see on anything, or otherwise we'll just consider them valid and approved? Is that good with everybody? Try to see if there's. Greg, by the way, I was reading them this morning and it reminded me I haven't read the book yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like 17th in line for holding it.
Oh, really?
Just some people are reading it. This was the fire weather.
This is
the one that
Ray recommended, so.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the book name?
Excellent.
Fire
Fire
weather.
How's the weather?
On the
Fire weather. Fire weather.
Fort McMurray, Canada, horrific fire experience that was, the book was written about. So you better. You can
Yes.
talk about it too.
Yeah, I was.
Anyway,
It's an excellent.
I'm on-
book,
it's on
and
hold now.
Scary as heck.
I was thinking about
Want to move to Canada.
recommending in our newsletter to our homeowners that they read it as well, because some of the people that are apathetic, if they end up reading the book, might change their mind.
Yeah. Or excerpts of
Hmm?
probably some excerpts.
Yeah.
If they don't read the whole
Yeah.
book, there's probably a certain excerpt.
That's a good idea,
That you
but-
could say, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
1 or 2 pages. Might
Yeah.
make a determination.
Good idea. Okay, the Next item is any recruitment. Do we have any new attendees here? I think we do.
Hi.
Hello. And so how did you hear about it and kind of why are you here?
The prior Firewise leader was Martita Marks, and so I picked up the responsibility maybe a month ago. So I'm learning a whole lot, and part of her notes in her banker's box, that 10 years worth of material, I saw these names on it, so I thought I'd connect, and you got me on the email, so here I am.
Good. Awesome.
Great.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Brenda,
Hi, I was on the Firewise committee at Mount Bachelor Village a couple of years ago, and I'm still on the email list for this, even though I kind of took a hiatus. And we are reforming, and I'm back on that committee, so I'm looking forward to hearing all the accumulated wisdom from all of you.
Great, great.
welcome.
Yeah. And as we all know, we are all more than welcome to invite anybody that you come across that has an interest in learning more about either what we do or just fire safety in general. So, you know, anytime you have an opportunity, and now with the pamphlet that we have, we've got the really nice lead behind. Melissa, I assume you've been leaving this behind at places?
Oh, everywhere. And grocery stores, you know, I mean, honestly, coffee shops.
You drop it in there?
Yeah, and we might
Not a
have
bad
another,
idea.
I'm trying to get River Canyon Estates, HOA, they've contacted me several times because they want to have an assessor training. Because again, too, they have many homes and they need them assessed. And so somebody might get a message from River Canyon Estates. I invited them today. I sent them the link, but I don't know if they're gonna come on later or not. But anyway, that's a new one to target. They want some help with that. So we might mentor them a little bit on the assessments and how to do those.
Where could I get the brochure?
Do we have any extras here?
I have some in my truck. The news on what?
Oh, they're just right in my.
We were
For-
able to
You
attach
should take
a fire reduction prescription to that land use agreement. So they
Okay.
are no longer bound to that
Okay,
do not touch zone
that's
to defensible space.
fabulous. That's
Yeah.
like 10 years in the making. So thank you for your help.
Melissa, did you present the Rotary Club a
I
week or
did.
two ago?
Yes.
Because I was visiting one of our neighbors and members in our community, and he was at the meeting, and he's actually one of our assessors, so he
Oh,
knew about it, but he said it was great. And
Okay.
they were surprised how many people really hadn't heard the message that, you know, we all hear all the time.
Yep.
So
We
he
live
said,
it, breathe it,
Mhm.
and
But-
there are still people out there that have no idea that this is a fire-prone area.
And you went
it
to-
blows my mind every day, but
I know.
that's the life I live. So I try to get out and speak. And so the Rotary Club asked us to speak. It was myself and Heather Miller from State Fire Marshal's office, and we had a really nice PowerPoint that we put together and collaborated on, and the interest was huge. The questions were great. I'm hoping that they can get the word out there. Yeah, the presentations have been at least 2 or 3 a week. So last night I did, what was last night? Broken Top, HOA. So that we did one for them, and
oh, really?
yeah, it was really good. It was at the Utilitarian Church, and they had a lot of people there. It was a good one. So we're trying to reach out to groups and places, and I love doing presentations and educating people. So if you guys have any leads on that, please let me know. And I'm not the only one that has to do them. One of
Right.
you want to join me and talk on your side about what you've done for your community, I would love to partner. So yeah, Tethra has done a lot. We came out and we brought the fire engine out there and did a little event. So that was really good. I actually got 2 or 3 people to call me after that event and talk about defensible space. So
Yeah, that's the majority, like you said, have no clue.
yeah, they have no clue. I'm trying to change that culture to if you live on the East Coast, you have storm shutters. You don't ask why. You just have them. There are hurricanes, you just have them. And over here in Pacific Northwest, you have to do defensible space. That's just that culture change that we're trying to do. And this group has been doing a great job with that. So keep that up.
So get this, across the street from us yesterday, my wife had taken, so we're uphill, across the street downhill, it's for sale, so it's vacant right now. the house next to that, my wife delivered to them a piece of mail that came to us and should have gone to them. And Marge says, oh, by the way, you know, I had this weird thing happen just a little bit ago. I noticed smoke over at Jacob's place. Went over there and discovered that they had a new bark dust because they were sprucing it up for selling. And it had started fire. I don't know whether somebody had thrown a cigarette or, you know, kind of a prism effect.
Textbook.
So she, you know, she was confused.
Sure.
Is it steam? Is it smoke? Went over there. She said, I dug around a little bit and there were embers in there. And this is right next to their house. And I put it right next to their house. Brand new, fresh burn house.
And they can actually be delivered with embers already in there.
Exactly.
And so that can happen. I mean, it is a real thing. And once you are exposed to that heat, once you get some wind, I mean, we've had calls for people just walking outside their front door and smelling smoke, but never seeing anything. And after an investigation and, you know, some thermal imaging cameras, we can find the hot spot and it's right there in the bark mulch, so.
So she threw a bucket of water on it. So I went over there with our hose because they didn't have hose and
Sure.
spent a half an hour just soaking as much as I could find down. But it was like,
You want a job at Fire? We have smoke things.
no.
Okay.
Also, Kevin was at this country club this last month, and he made a presentation along with 3 other people.
Oh, the city club? Yeah,
City
city club event.
City
Yeah.
club.
Great.
They had it was actually more towards, you know, how do agencies respond to fires was really the main theme, but it just got eventually into the fiscal space.
Yeah,
Talking about that.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
all
cool.
conversations usually.
but it's also interesting to know how the different units come together too, because
Yeah,
we're involved with that also.
Oh, yeah.
knowing who your fire protection district is really important.
So Kevin, how much have things changed since the campfire? Because you gave that presentation 100 yards before the campfire came through.
The campfire, in Oregon, or you mean the one?
The Aubrey Hall fire, sorry.
Oh, the Aubrey Hall fire. Well, you know, Project Wildfire was essentially started from the Skeleton and Aubrey Hall fire. Those were 2 major fires that kind of created Project Wildfire. And the intent was, you know, should we just get more resources? And it was really more the education was what was lacking in Central Oregon. So that's how Project Wildfire started. You know, the education and the mitigation. So doing what we're doing right now, that has changed immensely. I think you could probably count on one hand the amount of structures that burned since then. It hasn't in Deschutes County has not been that many. But the coordination between all the agencies, I think, has been really huge in promoting defensible space. I mean, since then, you know, the Firewise communities, there a few folks are probably have been involved since the beginning with those, but we have 73 Firewise communities, which is the 3rd most in the nation, 2nd most in the state. So we're really ahead of the curve when it comes to that and providing that education. You know, we have a lot of collaborative efforts. My position in general was created from that. You don't see that anywhere else in any other county in the state. You don't have someone solely dedicated towards working with communities on defensible space and providing grant opportunities. So I mean, there's kind of a lot that has come from that. You know, we've had a lot of fires since then that have kind of ramped up some other things, you know, and now we have probably the biggest wave recently was the 2020 Labor Day fires. So that has changed a lot. You know, the insurance has really changed because of that, unfortunately, but that's just kind of how insurance works. Horace, what he gave a presentation on Monday, you know, the power companies in general have meteorologists now, which wasn't really a thing prior to that, at least in Oregon. And so they're monitoring the weather like all over the state, really, because it is something you can kind of high wind events, you can really plan for it to some extent. So, you know, knowing that information, being ready, having that information readily available. We have Deschutes alerts. I mean, that's a really advantageous thing to have too, because we can get that message out pretty quickly. And that's really important with these you know, high risk fires that can, you know, burn very quickly and there's not much time to evacuate. So Yeah, there's
You
been a lot
touched
of
on it
changes.
really quickly, but I think we should be, aware of the collaboration between agencies because we have such a high fire danger in the area that forces us to play nice with our neighbors. It's not like that in other places. When I was in Northern California in Paradise, CAL FIRE didn't talk to the Forest Service, didn't talk to, other agencies, like they did not play nice together. And so I think it's fabulous here to see the Forest Service, ODF, BLM, city departments and rural departments actually train together. I mean, they do a big, huge training in May. They just got done with it in Sun River with all the different agencies. Our actual fire hoses now connect together, which they never did before. I mean, there's all these things that they carry packs. Ben Fire carries wildland packs on their engines to now connect to Forest Service and ODF and things like that. So the collaboration between agencies, the fires would not be put out if that wasn't there. So it's pretty awesome to highlight that too.
And also on the city club meeting, seminar that they had, also they said, like if a unit gets used up, like if Ben's full, they can draw them from surrounding areas and bring people in, and Ben will also do the same thing to the surrounding areas.
They did that on the first fire a couple weeks ago, when they,
Yeah.
we saw
I'm
this
just saying,
tanker after
that's
tanker
part of
going over our
coordination.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with, there's multiple aid, mutual aid, all these things, so that like mutual aid, Ben Fire will go, so we sent units from Ben Fire to La Pine, right? Those are completely different districts, but we sent them and we are there for the first 24 hours and we don't charge them. Like that's our mutual aid. We go there, but we have to come back to serve our community. So by that time, they've got the resource orders in for more people to show up. So the mutual aid is a big thing, and it's pretty neat to see how it all works together. But that's what I tell people, and maybe this is a message, this is kind of an educational message that you folks can tell your HOAs, is that's why home hardening is so important. It takes a long time for engines to get here. So if we can buy time by hardening our homes and doing the defensible space, that's initially what we're doing, because we can't be everywhere automatically. Day one of Darlene, maybe 30 pieces of equipment. Day 3 on Darlene, 130 pieces of equipment. So it takes that time to get there. So that's a really good educational message I like to tell people.
Well, the other message that you guys talk about in your trainings is, should you have to hunker down in your house, just you can't get out for whatever reason, then that's another good reason to have it really well hardened, because that's your last resort.
Yeah.
By the way, I was going to mention, I'd be happy if it worked to present it if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
Like an HOA, and if anybody else wants to offer from their HOA perspective, I think that would. I think it's good for people to hear from other HOAs in those as well.
I have quite a few scheduled in the near future. So what I'll do is maybe I can send that out of what I have coming up.
Great, that'd be
And
good.
then people can kind of collaborate and sign up if they want to.
Are these assessor trainings or general information meetings?
So there's 2 different ones, but they're pretty close, they're pretty similar. One is a fire preparedness, and a lot of you have seen those slides already, but fire preparedness. And then there's a specific one for wildfire assessments. So those are gonna be the people in the community that want to help and go do the assessments. So that one targets a little bit more of the actual going through the house and what we're looking for. And the other ones are just the overall being prepared, evacuation, having a go bag ready, that kind of thing. So.
Will you send the schedules out for both of those?
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
of those?
Yeah.
Because I think that
That'd be great.
within my own community, I would love to see some of my fellow committee members attend some of those assessment meetings. And
Yeah,
so forth.
absolutely.
How many people were at the Broken Top one? Would you get? Oh, sorry, Rob.
Well, just speaking about assessments, Ken Kennedy has asked online, is there a way to get an assessment form?
They're in the in our library.
Are they?
At least ours is in there.
Google Drive?
Yeah, in the Google Drive.
It's Google Drive.
And
If
is
you
that
go into the-
accessible for Ken?
If you go into the, is it the Aubrey Butte file or?
Yeah.
It's the Aubrey Butte file. If you go to the Google Drive, you know how to get it into that? If you go to the Aubrey Butte file, there should be an assessment form of ours in there. And there may be other people that have submitted theirs.
You can always go to Project Wildfire too, and the assessments that Project Wildfire uses, those forms, you can download that as well.
Great. No, I have been up there, so I can access the Google Drive. In fact, I've
Okay.
posted some things up there for Wild River. Great, thank you.
Eric, did you want to mention your evacuation?
Yeah, I'm from the Sundance neighborhood, which when I moved here in 2016, nobody told me that the skeleton fire destroyed 19 homes in our neighborhood. Had to learn that once I was in place. But we had 2 representatives from the Red Cross come to do our education event in June, talking about go bags and evacuation and readiness. We had about 32, 35 people attend. And I have some pictures if anybody, Melissa, if you want to put it in, or, sorry, Corinne, if you want to put it in the newsletter or anywhere, I can.
You could post them, right? Post them to the Google Drive.
Or I could put them on Google Drive.
Sure.
Okay,
Great.
I'll do that.
Did you have more of the brochures, for the Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition? I'd love some because the Summit West Neighborhood District, which is a neighborhood association within Bend, covers. Oh, okay. Well, we're doing farmer markets. Okay. So we can pass on information that way.
So Melissa, at the last meeting, and you were not at the last meeting, I don't.
I was not, no.
So somebody brought up the idea of should we be presenting to the 13 neighborhood committees?
Neighborhood
The neighborhood association. Have you done any of those to the, and is
I
that
mean-
something that would make sense to reach out to? So that, I mean, because like the Aubrey Butte Neighborhood Association, I went and talked to them a year ago or a year and a half ago, just because they wanted to learn a little bit more.
Sure.
Didn't seem to have a lot of understanding of what it is that we do now.
Yeah.
But
I've done many, I've probably done, I don't know, 25 different HOA/neighborhood association kind of presentations. So if I had a list of those ones, I could tell you which ones I've done within the
Okay.
last year. And the ones we haven't, we could put something together.
because it's a direct connection to other HOAs that
Yep.
may not know what we're doing.
I think
or-
it's a great idea.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
What do you need you want the
I
list?
just need, like, trust me, I see 5 or 6 or 10 HOAs a week. So I need to see the list of who's who, and I can tell you who I've done.
I'm just
So-
Googling roll, right?
I can get you a list very easily because I serve as the emergency preparedness
Perfect.
coordinator for
Yeah.
the Summit West Neighborhood District, and
Okay.
there are another 12. It's pretty simple to put those together.
That would be great because
I don't know of any other district that has an emergency preparedness
Yeah.
or some
There's a-
types.
There's a
Yeah,
map
does-
right here
does
that
Aubrey
shows
do?
them by
But
location and
Perfect.
the names of them.
Okay.
yeah, it would be great. to
No, I think that's a
coordinate
great
on that.
idea. Yep, I like it. Something, well, I don't know if you wanna mention this here or wanna go down, but along with that, we are going to start to target, I say target, that's not a very good word. We're gonna start to identify the mobile home parks that need wildfire defensible space. Broster House, the Pines, nightmare. So, that's gonna be a project coming up, and if anyone wants to help with that, it's gonna be along the lines of the First 5 Feet campaign, because they are close exposures to each other, and if one mobile home goes, the other one's gonna go. So that's a big campaign I'm having the state help me with, but I would love some more backup on that if anybody's interested in that project, so. Throw that out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of homes that have their firewood stacked right next to their house
I can't sleep at night
On the
driving by
deck.
that.
Yeah.
Other
On their deck.
with the wooden fence.
I have a neighbor who built one.
that.
No.
Just
Yeah, and these are
within the
more
last
the
year,
the
right up against
vulnerable
the house.
populations that we're looking at. We're looking at those
Every time I
mobile
go
home
by,
parks where there's been nothing done at all, ever. And so they butt up right against either another subdivision or a train track or something. And that's a population that's gonna be, with limited mobility, that's gonna be really difficult to evacuate. So if we can start the prevention process now, with eliminating that, and we can find funding for that, then we're gonna target that. It's a new project we're looking at for our prevention.
So we
You
were
might
riding
get
through Discovery West, I think it's the new one, next to Discovery Park. And, the homes are often connected by a fence, a wood fence, but they they have like a 3-inch space from the fence post to the house, so there's a little gap there. Is that effective?
No.
I wouldn't, I mean, it's gotta be for fire reasons, but I don't get why you wouldn't require metal gates or
Yeah.
whatever it is. It just looked like it was kind of pointless.
Wood River Village, I'm sure is interesting.
I see this as something that's been overlooked for years, and since we're doing defensible space, we need to target those populations where it really, a lot of people in those communities still do smoke, and so we've got the cigarette hazards, we've got people, we've cooking hazards, we've got things that the potential is there, and the potential loss of life is there, and we really need to look at that. So we can't do everything at once, but that's gonna be a project that's coming up.
You might get support from the neighborhood districts.
Okay.
That, where those communities are.
Yeah, absolutely, I think it's a
Yeah.
great idea.
So you could
We can
probably
reach out to them.
tie it into the other.
Melissa,
Yeah,
just-
you're all over that.
Finding the whole,
Thank you.
nobody said anything.
So Melissa, I just texted you that map.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I have a question when there's a moment.
Oh, sure.
So if the homeowner is not in an HOA, how do they get this information and how do you help them?
Yeah, great
Or
idea.
maybe not.
We don't, we can't reach everybody.
Right,
That's-
especially if they're on a road and they're not in a neighborhood.
and so we target, we try to at least do different media outlets. Some people do still read the newspaper. Some people do online, virtual things only. Some people listen to the radio. So we try to get fire prevention messages out there. We do all the fairs. We have booths everywhere and we still can't get a hold of everybody. And, I went to a house yesterday, did an assessment, and she's like, well, it'd be really nice to be able to get some grant funding. And she's like, but we're not an HOA or a community association or anything like that. How do those people get help? So yeah, that's where it is. That's where we're at right now.
But not everybody involved with this organization is in an HOA either.
Yeah.
So there, you don't have to be an HOA at all, but
To be
but it
part of
gets-
this group, right?
But it gets harder for people that don't have an association with some community in a more official capacity to learn about us or to learn about the resources out there.
And that's why we should take advantage of all the different groups and organizations, churches, any places where people gather, any groups, we've talked to Boys and Girls Club about teaching children wildland fire safety, things. So we could get super creative with this. If people have those ideas, let's brainstorm. We have a big safety outreach for senior program. I'm targeting like all of the churches, all of these groups, women's auxiliaries, like all these things to get that word out. And so we just have to figure out who can be that platform for us.
Have you ever presented to the Central Oregon Builders Association?
No.
Going back to Lon's comment about the fence and
And like the realtor that's selling the house across us, she's promoting,
so
make it look good regardless of any fire safety.
Yeah.
Even if you burn down the house you're trying to sell.
Some of the labs would like to have that conversation with builders. There's a lot
I
of
think it's
development
more
going
the
on too.
developer,
It's-
because the developer is creating architectural guidelines, it's not necessarily the builder.
Yeah, so
And then the developer will tell us it's the builders.
Well, there's new buildings, there's
So-
new building codes, and things like that for, home hardening construction and things like that. So that's great, that's in place. But the other groups that we specifically right now are working with is, Heather and I did a presentation on home protection strategies for realtors. And we had maybe 35 to 40 people. There was excellent turnout. So we're telling these people as they're selling homes, point out this or point out this part that they have a metal roof and that's fire safe, things like that. We've also done landscapers. We've done classes for landscapers and told them, that was a fun one, telling them no bark mulch. Wow. We were not popular at first, but yeah, so we're trying to hit all of those people those groups where fire safety doesn't just affect the homeowner. It's everybody's responsibility to put that together. So yeah, it's a big collaboration and we couldn't do it without nobody's help. So yeah, I like those ideas, keep bringing them on.
Speaking of codes, Craig Letts and I were talking a month and a half ago now.
Mhm.
And he was talking about, we're talking about our HOA and, we do a lot with Firewise, but we really don't have any teeth in our CCNRs and our rules and regs to enforce or do the things we like to be able to do. It's more on a voluntary or recommended basis. And he was talking about, that's frustrating. And just what we really need is the county or the city or the state to start developing code requirements for defensible space and, but what's that?
The map came out actually today. The draft map came out today. The rulemaking, so that means it's open for public comment for the next 30 days. But that doesn't really necessarily, what you will see in that map is areas that you might consider high risk or not being considered high risk in that map. And so an area that is considered classified as high risk and is within the designated WUI deemed by Department of Forestry will be subject to the Oregon State Fire Marshal Code. Now, I think the first year is going to be an educational process. They're not trying to do anything, but
I heard 2 years.
yeah, it probably will be more like 2 years. But after that, whether the counties adopt that or come up with someone independently, that would, that's the decision that we.
And with code, just to make sure everybody understands this, there's already an international WUI code, right? There's already that International Wildland Urban Interface Code. So the state can take and pick and choose what they want to adopt from that international code. They're not taking it all. So they adopt what works for them. Now, the city and the county, it'll be the city. The city can actually adopt from the state code what we want to do. So it does, so in the code, for instance, it says something about trees within 30 feet, right? In the WUI, International WUI code. Well, here, that doesn't work. We're not gonna eliminate all trees within 30 feet of homes. So we're not gonna adopt that section, And so when that comes out, you'll see that we've adopted, 10 feet of limbs from roofs and eaves. Right now, Firewise says 5 feet. We're gonna go a little bit more stringent and do 10 feet. So we're gonna adopt and pick what works best for us. And we all don't really know exactly what that's gonna be yet until it comes out. But so just so you know how code works, just because it says something in the WUI code right now, does not necessarily mean the state's gonna adopt it.
But it seems the issue is more, because we have a code enforcement group, right?
The city of
The
Bend
city.
has a code enforcement, which is completely different from the fire department.
Correct.
Mhm.
But they do some fire safety type
Yes,
evaluations.
so
But they don't look at it the same way that we look at it from a home hardening perspective necessarily.
the city.
Yeah.
So the city and the fire department, they are pretty much on the same page. The only thing that's different is that the city of Bend has an ordinance for flammable vegetation. The county is not right now, correct? Okay, I didn't think so. Unless there was something new in the last few months. So flammable vegetation, and they look at that on half acre and less, and half acre and more. And so they kind of say no flammable vegetation at all if you have a half an acre or less. Well, what does that actually look like? It doesn't specify. But we have adopted right now the Firewise guidelines. That's what we're going off of right now, of the 0 to 5, 5 to 30, 30 to 100. So that's what we're using. It's a little bit, the waters are a little bit muddy with them writing tickets for this and that, but they know what we're saying. They know what the fire department is saying, that 0 to feet needs to be non-combustible. From there, you can have vegetation, it just needs to be pruned and of the fire resistant type and that kind of thing. So that's the language we're speaking now. It will change when the code comes out. Some of those things will change.
Has the state passed the building code, new building code ordinance?
That's for new construction.
For new construction.
We're talking new
Yes.
construction here.
Or remodels, isn't it?
Substantial remodels, and then
Substantial,
that has a measurement attached to it, but I'm not sure what that attachment is.
Because we should not get confused between home hardening and defensible space.
Yeah, this is
We've been
me,
working on
new
defensible
subdivisions
space,
going in,
all
we'll have to
automated.
have, cement fiber board for siding and 1/8 of an inch metal screening and things like that. That will be a thing. We're not gonna go back to homes that were built before that and say you need to go put this up, so.
Where does the county stand on adopting that code?
The state code,
Yes.
I don't know, well, I have a meeting next week to present the map and start those discussions, and, I'm not quite sure. I think the biggest issue is gonna be capacity, really, to enforce. I mean, you can adopt a code, but whether you can enforce it is a whole other issue, so. You know, if they do adopt the code, they would have to think of how they can have the capacity for code enforcement, because currently the codes right now are pretty hard to enforce as it is. I mean, I deal with the noxious weed code and that one,
Yeah.
no one has any time to enforce that, so.
But I mean, new builds,
Yeah,
I mean,
building will be easy because that kind of goes through the land use process anyways, and so that will be a lot easier, but this, you know, retroactive, defensible space codes, but you know, that will be a lot more difficult, especially if you have HOAs who have guidelines that are completely opposite of what the code is saying.
Right.
And more challenging.
so is there any opposition within the county to the new building code? Or new build?
Not that I'm aware of.
The biggest, I guess, word controversy is right, but I guess the biggest thing right now is on new construction and new subdivisions. Those contractors are coming at us citing the wildland urban interface code, saying we need to remove all these trees within 30 feet so that they can build. And we are saying you actually do not have to do that because that's not what the code says. We don't want all the trees. I mean, look at some of these new, and every tree is gone. And so we spoke at City Hall.
Put on a new tree code.
So there's a new tree code and I'm working on that board as well. And all I'm doing is stating the fact that these new contractors cannot use the WUI code to cut down all these trees. That is incorrect. We are not telling people to cut down trees. They say, well, I need to remove these mature ponderosas because we need to put up more affordable housing. It's absolutely incorrect. So we're making sure that the new tree code goes along with fire safety and defensible space, and they're not using that. So we spoke at City Hall about that in a meeting, and told them that we do not support that.
Kevin, little feedback on the map that came out this morning.
Yeah.
So I saw at 8 a.m. that it was out, so I went on at 8:30, and you had a choice of putting in your address or use this device location. So, you know, I have my iPad, my phone, so I tapped on use this device location. It came out with, there are times, if not always, that my devices think that I'm in Sisters, even though I'm in Bend. I'm not, it's always kind of
So the
been that way.
timestamp must be very delayed or something.
There's something, and so, anyway, I go telling the rest of the HOA board, okay, we're in this category and this category, and a couple hours later, they came back, they said, no, we're not. And I said, oh, I bet it's, so just FYI, because it may happen to other people too, I don't know.
Where are
Thank
you?
you for sharing that.
Did you look at the map?
Oregon Explorer.
Yeah, it's Oregon Explorer.
Yeah.
Can't you just look at the map though and scroll?
Yeah.
But they probably give you the option to
I
hone
thought,
you
well,
in on
you know,
your
it's just so
location.
fun to be able to, you know, put your address in, and then it starts spinning and telling you to wait. So,
You should go on to Shoot's dial then, that's a hoot.
anyway, just a little heads up, I don't know if it happens to
Good to know.
anybody else.
No, that's good to know, because I'm sure people will be calling me asking why. So that's good to know, thank you.
If we were to comment, what is the website? I mean, is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, Oregon Explorer, just
Okay.
just put that in your search engine and it'll come up with, and then you'll see
The
in there wildfire.
Is
risk.
there, can you comment from that website though? I'm not sure on how you actually comment. Yeah, I'm not.
No.
So on the ODF
Yeah, it's gotta be ODF
website, there's a section, I believe, like it was last time with a link that said public comment, click here, and then you can add it, but that's what I would expect again, but don't quote me if that's what it was
Yeah,
last time.
that's what I think is.
To how you would comment.
Well, we're unique. neighborhood, because we already have 447 homes built out of 500. And then we're city and county.
Yeah,
You have
You guys
some
are
in
fun.
county, some in city.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have
That's
some like final vegetation, like that you can enforce and outside of that.
Yeah, so just like you said, when they come up with it, we're gonna have to be on county and then city, however we're gonna go.
I'm sure we would all try and have similar, codes and
I hope so.
anything within Deschutes County.
Mhm.
Imagine we try to
Will be built out
mimic.
by the time this all goes through.
No,
Down there,
No.
we only have
No,
50
there's-
sites left.
there's gonna be a lot of, I think there's gonna be a lot of bumps in the road on this still.
Yeah.
Before any like adoption of a code.
Yeah.
See, maybe
Plus
the
I'm
city
saying-
might be able to do it quicker, but.
Yeah. But we'll be finished building, is what I'm saying, by the
Yeah.
time any of that comes around.
Yeah,
They're tough cookies out there.
yeah. Yeah, I have a, meeting next week. We're presenting the maps to the commissioners and then just basically providing, requesting feedback and then, just kind of what the options are, but it's really up to the individual homeowners to comment on, whatever their tax lot is classified as. If you agree or disagree or have comments and just the map in general.
You know how long that review period is?
30 days.
30 days?
Yeah.
You know when the public input would be?
No,
That'll be the public comment period.
Yeah.
30 days.
And there's actually 3 hearings too, which I believe is on that Oregon webpage that should be on that ODF page. There's 3, July 31st at 10 a.m., July 31st at 2 p.m., August 1st at 6.
Oh, those would be different locations then?
It'll be a virtual public hearing. Yeah, you can probably, I don't know if you can show up on Salem or what, but I think it's virtual.
Does anybody have any issues within their own communities that they want to bring up or talk about in,
quiet.
get
So
ideas?
don't even start with the Deschutes River Woods. I've got it handled. No, they're doing great. We've had so many people from Deschutes River Woods.
So I have, I'd love some input on this. Within our community, we've gotten more people to buy in to defensible space and home hardening and so forth. So we put the dumpsters up in May. Some people were not able to get to everything, or they've got more work than what their yard bins will are capable of holding. So one suggestion that's come up is can we put a dumpster in our community for a longer period of time, just so that people can do the work over the summer whenever they want, which is a great idea. And I've actually figured out a place where we actually could put it on an asphalt surface that we've got. It would be out of the way, but I think the cost would be kind of exorbitant.
Yeah,
And you'd have to get a city permit to have that
we,
set up there.
You
as
can
well.
get
Well,
this-
not on our private roads.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that's a
excellent.
plus.
That's a good
plus.
thing.
within the city of Benton, they waived the permit fee
Yes.
during that Firewise period. We had funding for the bins during kind of the fire-free event, but we wouldn't be able to, we don't have the funding to do that as far as a yearly or long time. I mean, it was 45,000 for just the 19 communities that we funded on the bins. So
Seems like one idea though, because the bin to rent aren't that expensive, it's the disposal.
It's
that's
the
expensive.
disposal is what's,
So you
Yeah.
could say anybody that uses it makes a $25 contribution or $10 or something like that. Because if you have a 30-yard bin, that's a lot of stuff before they have to dispose of it.
Right.
And just have it that everybody understands that if they're gonna use and you could even do it based on estimated cubic footage they use. If they fill up half the bin, then they should pay roughly half the disposal cost or something.
Right.
So you could make it very low cost, but having that available is probably a big benefit.
Yeah, it would be.
We've talked here about, like Ray brought this up
Yeah,
at one
that's
point,
right.
like how do you make this a kind of year-long effort versus the fire-free event and maybe something in the fall?
Yeah.
Which they're great, those are great, but But if people could just chip away at it, we've also talked about the yard bin disposal capability that a lot of people don't have if they're not in districts that provide it. So adding kind of that routine capability seems to make a lot of sense.
How much does it actually cost to have your bin?
I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to look at it.
I think it's roughly 150.
Yeah.
It's like $100 or 120. I mean, it's a couple-year-old information, so I haven't added inflation, but it's 100-ish to low hundreds to rent the bin. And I don't know for what period that gives you, but that's about 150 each time they dump it.
You've got a delivery cost, and then you've got a daily cost, and then you've got the disposal, the pickup and disposal fees, so.
Yep, and if you work with the Republic, they also put on just bizarre costs too, that you have to
Right,
say,
yes, we
they
work
don't
with them,
belong here.
right, but it would be, we couldn't afford like a summertime rental for a bin, you know, like, do we buy a bin?
It's cheaper for you to buy the bin.
What's that?
It's cheaper for you to buy the bin and just have them come when it's full.
Well, that's interesting.
Is that what some communities do?
Huh?
They own their own bins?
Why not?
Well, you could, yeah, I mean, it's.
And and just make sure it's capable for the, whoever's picking it up.
Right.
And taking it to, or able to pick it up and stuff. I mean, after a while, it gets expensive, just the rental.
My little neighborhood had good success with a chipping project. We announced it last fall and gave the parameters, and then everybody had, I think it ended up being 8 months in which they could do the work on their property and get the debris to the front of their property without having to transport it to a dumpster. And then the chipping crew came along to the designated properties and chipped it all in 4 hours.
You see that a
You
lot.
could do the same with a dumpster and a skid steer with a gravel. You could have one group pick it all up and get rid of it in one day. But it gave, the biggest advantage was it gave people months in which to do their work themselves or get a contractor to show up and do it. And you didn't have to have any specialized equipment to do it because you didn't have to transport it from your property to the neighborhood.
And you charge them a fee or didn't you?
Yeah, the contractor was happy to keep track of his crew's time at each property. And then we just subdivided his total and made a cost per unit and everybody paid per unit.
Yeah.
And the biggest property that they had, probably 12 pickup sized piles of brush. It was the first thinning in 30 years and these people went all out. And it cost them like $100 before a grant. So they ended up paying, $60 or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I have all the, the actual numbers and stuff. If anybody needs that, I can forward that out. But it worked well for us. We're an unincorporated neighborhood with no HOA, so it's all
Say,
volunteer based.
You see that a lot in the rural areas, the chippers coming through. That's yeah. It's a great service. And I don't know if COIC's Heart of Oregon has a chipper or if Lauren talked about them getting a chipper, but I think that was, they have a chipper. Okay, okay, excellent. Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a great thing. If you've got the space and the time and the people want to be part of it, all they have to do is put it out on their, street in front of their house.
Was that Spring River Tree Company that was that
Yes.
the one you used? Because you mentioned that was the only one that responded or something.
Yeah, out of 10 companies, they were the only one who would seriously talk with me. And I think the others were just too busy.
Yeah.
That's what.
I was trying to communicate with them in the fall and they were doing their seasonal, trying to wrap up and they were loaded and nobody had time until midwinter to talk to me.
We've got an issue in our HOA, because we have 781 properties. We've conducted about 330 assessments, and that all happened pretty quickly the first year and a half, couple years. It's slowed down now because we asked for volunteers to register to have their homes assessed, and the early adopters we're through that early adopter phase into the middle adopters, and so we're going out with a new push on kind of breaking our 600 acres into 7 different zones and reaching out by zone to say, we'd like to focus on your area. That has been modestly successful. So now we're trying to figure out, do we really, one of the things we're probably going to do is start doing some assessments from the road.
Yeah.
And then mail a assessment report with recommendations and observations to the owner and kind of see how that goes over. It can go anywhere from, wow, that's really interesting, to what the hell are you doing on my property, or, we don't know. Because we're gonna get pushback, I'm sure, but it's something that we can proactively do, and, we're hoping it sparks some real recognition by the owner that, wow, I never really thought about it mine being that bad. Or they just haven't even followed up on any of the requests we've had to consider it. So anybody else have an issue around getting to a point of sort of apathy within the neighborhood?
Oh, yes.
We're having Craig do all of our empty lots.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, he's doing all the 53 lots. He's coming and doing assessments on all of them.
Did you say Craig?
Craig, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then,
Yes, I'm surprised that more people aren't participating, where some of the worst situations are the ones who just year after year don't do anything about it. And it affects everybody. So, yeah, I'm ready to, if I can convince the rest of the board members to get a little bit tougher.
and that's
At least do street side assessment and send a letter.
exactly, because, within our CCNRs and our rules and regs, we don't have the right. It's not built into our CCNRs, the right to go, and it isn't some, like Black Butte and others we talked to, Sun River, I believe. They have the right to go on property and enforce recommendations. So, one of the things we've talked about, and this is where I was kind of looking at the code, is if it's really a bad situation, you can always call code enforcement, or I guess you go online and register a
You will
complaint.
not get a human being to talk to.
Right,
They
you
do
read it,
not
you-
take phone calls.
You
So,
file a complaint.
yeah, file the
form.
complaint, and if it's really, really bad, I tell people in that community, all the neighbors on the street to file that complaint. There's only 4 code inspectors for the city,
Yeah.
and it's like in a district. So if they get a whole bunch of for one property, that's gonna move that priority up. So please do that. We want you to do that, and you could remain completely
Anonymous
anonymous.
when you do that.
Yep.
Melissa, for example, I'll go ahead and admit that I don't know what the codes are relative to fire wise. So how do you know if you're, turning in a neighbor and they haven't done anything that's, against the code?
No, that's a great question.
How do we-
So if it looks really bad, call. So, no, so what it says in code enforcement in their brochure is that if their lot is a half acre or less, it says you can have no flammable materials. That's literally what it says, like no flammable vegetation, eliminate all. And so that right there is not helpful, right?
No.
And so then they say if it's a half an acre and above lot, then it is a 30 feet clearance from structures. So
Well, and 20 feet
And the-
from the edge of the property.
from the,
property
yes,
line, yeah.
yes. So, what I would suggest is if there is any concern, I mean, let's talk about the different zones, this, the 0 to 5 zone. If they've got brush up against the house or really tall grass that's never been attended to, absolutely give them a call. Now, if it's trash and hoarding and all that kind of stuff, that's still flammable, but that's a completely different code, and you can actually file a complaint on that as well. But the flammable vegetation would be lots of brush, limbs all on the roof, just kind of, encompassing the whole property. I went on one of the Deschutes River Woods yesterday. I can't go on their property. They didn't call me. The neighbor called me and I said, I cannot do anything for them, but I can come and assess you and I can look at their property from my truck and I can tell you what I think. And so that was the same thing. She wanted to know if it was really a hazard or not. And I said, first reach out to your neighbor. Tell them the fire department comes and does free assessments. Like, we gotta extend that olive branch to our neighbors before we start complaining. Give it that effort of saying, hey, we share the same 5 to 30 foot zone. It's not that we don't have that zone because we only own 10 feet. We actually share that zone. So that hazard is there. Would you like to go in with, clearing the property with me or the zone? So reach out first. And then after that, if you get nothing, code enforcement has ways of finding them. And the only place they really find people is the absentee homeowners that haven't been here for a really long time. $750 a day is what they can be responsible for. So if we go there, if we send them a letter on July 1st that says you're gonna start to be charged $750 a day, and they don't come here for a month, so for 30 days times $750, that's a pretty big, hefty
Good
threat there.
incentives.
They tend to call back really quick, so, start that process, with the neighbor. If it doesn't work, do the complaint anonymously, but, I would always say to tell them, give them the neighborhood coalition thing, give them, all these pamphlets and reach out, and if they're not home, put it on their doorstep. We've gotta try to get to them
We've done
without,
that for 4 years straight, every house, and about 50% of them,
50% is excellent. I mean, that's 50% more than you got before, so
Yeah.
that's excellent. And then the other thing I would say with getting people to engage, have those educational events. Get that in the neighborhood. If you have a newsletter, let's get that out. If you have an email, something that you can send that says, we're gonna have a fire safety day, get those out. Fire department will come. We will play with the kids. We'll do all the things. Try to get people to understand that we're having an event for this specific reason. And we just keep doing it, and more people will be like, wow, what are they doing over there? I wanna be part of that.
Do you still have the truck
The
education?
Yeah,
truck?
we do,
Okay,
we
good.
do,
That went
yes.
over really well.
Yes, we do still have it. We have a community engine. It's really hard to get an event with a community engine between August and October because we only have 3 drivers and we're usually out on fires doing things. So, the earlier you schedule with us, we can come out to any communities and do that. Absolutely.
Are you the person I would contact?
Yep.
I'll
get you my card for sure.
Get Kona Ice to come out too, it helps.
That was fabulous.
What was that?
Oh.
Yes.
We paid for Kona Ice to come out for an hour,
What is Kona
It's shaved ice.
It's the shaved ice
Oh,
truck.
okay.
So they came out and parked right next to our engine, so.
Just did that.
Cool.
And it was like 150 degrees that day, so it was great because we had the engine, the kids played, they got all, hot and tired, and then went and got their little free
Sugar
shaved
that.
ice. And then they came back in my engine and stickied up all my stuff. But it was really fun. It was a great idea, so,
Did
yeah.
you do the fire extinguisher demo there?
We didn't do the fire extinguisher demo there,
At
no.
Tezero?
No, the kid events are a little bit different than the fire extinguisher because we don't want to encourage little kids to use fire extinguishers. We want them to know, call 911 and get out of the house. So, yeah.
How much did Kona Ice charge?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not the one that does that stuff. I'd have to ask Heather, she'll know.
the police department has a shaved ice machine.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
The sheriff's department has 2 of them.
That's good.
Quick question.
It wasn't that bad though.
They have fancy slushy machines on
Slushy.
really, really fancy golf carts.
That is so cool.
Will that bring them out for you?
And you only had it for an hour or something, right?
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah.
I've seen them at soccer games in Alpine and a couple of other events. Hey, it's your taxpayer money.
There you go.
Buying slushy machines
So-
on
so
$30,000 golf carts.
There's a question online, what is the status, this is from Sherry, what is the status of getting bi-weekly yard waste bins in rural communities?
We've had that discussion a couple different times and we might think about, does anybody want to kind of volunteer for a project to maybe pursue if that's even feasible? Because I think this is the 3rd time it's come up. The status is nobody knows. Was it
Well,
you that?
yeah, I did the last time, which was a few months ago.
Okay.
And they said, we're not doing anything.
Was this a Cascade?
No, yeah, it was Cascade
Was
Disposal.
it just too far away? They didn't want to serve?
They just, it's another route,
Yeah.
as it is, they have 2 trucks making the rounds and
They only have 2 or 3 drivers, so.
I don't think they have enough interest. And I guess there's no governmental incentive to provide that service. And I think maybe it's been a year and a half when there was a questionnaire they sent in the bill or something that said, would you be interested? And they didn't get enough interest from that to make it something they wanted to pursue.
I don't think they got enough responses even on that.
Yeah.
Because at one point they were saying, if it's mandatory, then they can afford to have the equipment. They have to purchase some more equipment in order to go out to the rural area. Not that they don't want to do it. They just want to know if they got the money to recoup their initial costs. And then it was, if they make it voluntary, how many would have to volunteer? And that's an unknown. But at one county commissioner hearing, they actually said, we don't care. If you make it voluntary or mandatory, we'd be willing to do it. So somehow they worked out the financials that it would work.
Who did, I'm sorry, was that?
It was cascaded. And then it just disappeared.
How long ago is all this, Ray?
This is about a year and a half ago. And I think the county commissioners dropped it. It just disappeared into vapor. I'm not sure exactly what happened because it disappeared. Went to the hearing for that, and everybody's saying, we don't want it because I don't have enough debris. And if I have to pay for it year round, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then when they said voluntary, it just went over everybody's head. And we presented to our homeowners and said, if this were voluntary, would you sign up? And I said, just sign up even if you don't want to use it. Because if you have enough people signing up saying they would use it, then they might institute it. But you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but at least we got it there for the people who want to use it. And we pay for it, and it went nowhere. I think it's being told what to do. It's still the old, US attitude. You tell me what to do and I'll tell you.
No.
No.
But then it's our fault when their house burns down. Sorry, I shouldn't say it. Okay.
I never that.
So
it's interesting what we've done recently is to say, have once in a lifetime opportunity, if we got 100 people signing up for a free defensible home assessment, then we put in for a grant to do the work at little or no cost. And I said, oh, but if you don't sign up to do the assessment, you're not eligible for the grant. And that carrot and stick was like, I think in 2 weeks, I had like 53 people sign up for it. We're doing a second mailing and we're gonna hit 100, I'm sure, within the next 3 or 4 weeks. And these are people who aren't on my list for doing the yearly cleanup year after year after year.
Right.
These are quite a lot of new ones. I'm thinking, what really is the motivation here?
Free is the motivation.
Yes, it is.
I don't know.
Well, if you have a
Maybe it's
rental
the fear
property.
of loss. If you're not part of this and we do get the grant, do it for free,
The rental property.
you're out of here. I think it's that, it may be that part. If you don't do the free part now and get the assessment done, you are not eligible if we get funding to do it for free.
So this is, you don't have the funding yet, you're
No.
you're seeking it, but you're asking them to have an assessment done just in case you get the funding.
To be on the list.
To be on the list, but the funding will be dependent upon the number of people we get to do
Right,
the assessment because they want to see what is it worth their money, time, what's their return on investment for this. But I'm thinking, it's that if you don't do it now, you don't get it later. And the later is the big carrot. So if you don't do this free part, we can't lose because now we'll have all these assessments being done. And even if we don't get the grant,
Exactly.
we'll say, gee, nobody wants to fund the grant because I'll just blame it on Trump. And we'll say, this is it, but you've got the assessment that says, your houses, all you have to do is this. And it's up to you what you want to do because you can say, no, I don't want to have that tree cut. Then your option is get rid of all the brush around it.
Mhm.
So that's your final written assessment. It's whatever you choose to have on your property, because it's your property, you have the right to do whatever you want with the trees you want. But if you do this, then you ought to do that. Your choice, and as long as they give them the choice, they feel comfortable. When they're told you have to take down this tree and this tree and this tree, they go, take a hike. So I've got the
I can
feeling
see
if
something
people
like
just-
that happen within our community where we could put out the carrot, we're going to go out and look for a grant. But if you'd like to participate, back end of this, you have to do an assessment. And then if we did chippers instead of dumpsters, then we could send the contractor to those particular homes who participated. I think within our small community, we could probably do something like that.
Manage that.
We couldn't have people just leave things for 8 months or 5 months on their property because our homes are too close together. But something like that might work. When this past past spring, we did a survey in our community, and as part of that survey, individuals had the opportunity to express interest in having a complimentary assessment done. So I got 9 out of 60, well, we only have 65 homes. 2 lots aren't built yet, so 9 out of 65 is a pretty good response rate. But in the end of the day, only 4 scheduled the assessments, which was kind of disappointing. But those who did, and who got reports, and it was very thorough, the reports. I worked with Craig and with Lon to do those. People have done the work or in the process of doing the work, and in some instances, again, the work is more than what they could do during that fire-free event. That's a great idea,
We
right?
told them this is multi-year project,
Yeah,
so it's not like you're gonna do everything on your property in 1 year.
right.
It'll be the logistics of this and the management is what kills the project.
So as far as this group goes with that, what we're talking about with identifying the need for dumpsters and things like that in rural neighborhoods for one, or how do we get it to be there for longer? I think, these are my thoughts, we've identified that problem. This group could go back to these HOAs, these communities, these neighborhoods. We could do some surveys, right? We can figure out who would actually use this. We take that information and we go to the state fire marshal. That is the reason the state fire marshal is there. The state fire marshal is there to back us up, to create funding and grants for projects like these. So my suggestion as a group, what we can actually accomplish here is to start, maybe this be a long-term goal for a project, and start finding out if these communities, if the money was there, would you use this dumpster and what does that look like? And then we come back with that information, we go to the state, and I'm happy to do that. I know a lot of those people go to the state and say, look what Deschutes County has put together. The need for these is here, and we would like some money, please. And then they take it from there. And this might be a 1 to 2 year process, but at least we're getting it started now. And as a group, like, we're not gonna come up with any answers right now, being such a small group, but you guys have fabulous ideas and I wanna see them carry out. So if we can, if someone wants to, we can still talk about this. If someone wants to put, you know, a couple people in charge of going out to their community and figuring out, hey, if we had this, would you use it? And we can see what that looks like over time.
It's so easy to do a survey.
Mhm.
We did ours on Google.
Yeah.
It was so
And whatever
easy.
the easiest way to reach people is, if a Google survey serves one community and doesn't serve another because people aren't on the internet that much or whatever, you know, we can figure out how to reach them. But I think this is a really good project. But we're the ones that are in the communities talking to HOAs and associations. And so we should be gathering that data. And that's a good project for this group, as far as moving forward. So those are my thoughts.
Well, the other thing that comes to mind, hearing you talk about that, is that even within this group, we have very different communities. Like, mine's very dense, right? Lots are small, homes close together. Others are more rural, larger communities, and or larger lots, and you know, sort of different vegetation and things like that. So it would even be beneficial to know amongst this group, amongst our members, what the differences are. Perhaps, because maybe the issues that some of us are facing are very different from the issues that others are facing. And so
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because we were talking about the mobile home parks earlier. I can't remember who's doing it, but one fire department on the west side of Oregon already has a program and is putting funding together to go do defensible space at these mobile home parks. And I'm thinking, why don't we have that? And so I got the PowerPoint from that fire department. I'm looking at that, and then I'm going to apply for grants to the state, you know, so we can do it. That's what the state fire marshal's for. They're to back up the small fire departments and districts. And so we just need to give them something, a nice package that says, this is the need in Deschutes County, whether you're city or rural. These are our special needs. I think it's a really good idea. It's gonna take some time. We're not gonna do it in 6 months, but yeah, it's a good start.
Is anybody interested in, like, being part of that project.
And it doesn't have to be big, like you don't have to take on this big thing. We just need all the representing people that are here and online for your community is to maybe start that and ask that. Send out the email, send out the newsletter that asks about it. And then come back to the group. We're a group, like I said, we're a team. We don't have to do it by ourselves.
Well, that's what I was thinking. If Eric, you are interested in it, a couple people wanted to do it that are more tied to the rural communities. And just, build a template of the kind of survey or information you're asking for, and then share that and build upon it. And get that input and see if a month or 2 or 3 from now, we've got something that you could go to the state with.
Yeah, and I'm super happy to do that.
I mean, we can start, because Kevin had that pilot program this year. Our neighborhood took advantage of it, but we didn't really optimize, because we put the bins out and they filled up in a day and a half, and then we had to find somebody to come and help because they wouldn't pick it up because it was too full. So we had to have people come in and
That's my job.
and
I
cut everything
down
back
every
so that they
single
pick it up.
Yeah.
And
And then we do a pickup too, because we do 10 days. So we do halfway through, well, we do 3 bins every time and then do a halfway pickup after 5 days. So we've done 100 to 120 yards every time we've done it.
Wow.
And just to go back, I guess, on all this conversation, there was a bill that was proposed in the last legislative session for the Oregon State Fire Marshal to provide grant funding opportunities to communities after they went through a home assessment. And so that was a bill being proposed. It didn't actually go through, but that conversation is going to continue. So I would encourage everyone to just stay apprised of the long session coming up next year, because that bill will most likely be proposed again. And, public testimony or some kind of, we could even come up with a letter or something from this group to provide for that opportunity.
Awesome.
That's a good discussion. We're down to 15 minutes about, so maybe we cover a couple things on the agenda. From a mentorship perspective, does anybody have a request for mentorship?
I do. Speaking as a board member of Upper Deschutes River communities, we would like to be able to get more training for assessors, completely volunteer assessors, to go to visit homes. We've been doing some of that on our own, and I think you personally and some others presented at Sun River.
Yep.
Now, we're definitely not in Bend, and none of our constituents that UDRC serves are in Bend, but are you or is somebody else a good resource for getting that training?
I take that deep breath because I am your neighbor and I live there too. And since I can't technically go down to LaPine and do these because it's not my fire district, I've actually talked with Chief Holsey and said, like, how can we collaborate on this? Can we do it through the Central Oregon Fire Prevention Co-op? Because if we do it under that, then I can come down and do that. But I've already sent a letter to Chief Holsey, and there was one other LaPine firefighter that reached out to me that said he would like to go through the training. So right now we are at a wall with staffing to perform those. The other thing is that Clara Butler, the state fire marshal, one of the deputy state fire marshals, she is the one that can do those right now. So my suggestion would be to come up with some people, like as a group that want to get those done. She is out of Redmond, but she services the whole area. And so if you had a day where you had 5 homes that wanted to be done, she could come down and do those for you. And Allison Green is another one. So I can give you those contacts both and see what we can do.
And Clara come to a whole complex in Eagle Crest just recently.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they're the two that can do that. Once the collaboration happens more under the co-op, then you better believe I'll be down there helping.
Because what UDRC is looking to do is have an informal staff of volunteers to do the assessments. We would like to get training for the assessors. Some of us have had that training to some level, but we'd like to get more people more trained.
The other option is for our Central Oregon Wildfire Education Group, which I'm a part of, do a training in Bend. You guys come and see us and we can do the specific assessor training. So going down there might be a little tricky, but if you guys want to come to us, we'll put that on for the community, and whoever in the community wants to attend that can attend. So, let's talk afterwards and we'll see if we can put something together.
Because you said earlier that you have some scheduled already, right?
So we have some
Assessor training?
so we have the presentations scheduled. We have communities that are interested in the assessor trainings to get scheduled.
Okay.
So, we can look at calendars and get those trainings on there, but like I said, there's only a few of us. So if we can reach as many people as possible, if anybody has community centers or a place where we could do a big, auditorium where we could do a big one, I'm super happy to put that on for you.
Do you get the Project Wildfire newsletter?
I'm sorry?
Do you get the Project Wildfire newsletter?
Yes.
In the newsletter, there's a link to fill out an interest form.
Okay.
Whole one.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else on mentor?
Yeah.
Mentorship?
Melissa, can you send the contact information for Clara and Allison?
Yep.
To us so that we can include it in the minutes?
Yep.
I can picture what a mentorship program or connection might be, but could you explain that?
So some people that are either not Firewise yet and want to become Firewise or want to take it to the next level are interested in talking to programs that are more mature, been doing it a while and that sort of thing. So it's just really kind of sharing the information. And for example, I was talking with a lady that was along the assessors. It's like, well, how do you assign assessors to people that want to have their home assessed? And should we have a software program that does that? And how do we do it? So we just described what we do in our organization. And then just also, we can let them know of all the information that was collected to date from all of us that are in the Google Drive. Just, here's a resource library that you can access for various things. It's just kind of sharing your experience with them so they don't have to recreate the wheel. There's a lot of it.
Okay.
And so, it might just be a discussion. It might be a very specific thing like assessor training or everything in between. So it's just more of kind of setting up a communication so people can ask questions and we can give them feedback and they can talk to other people if need be, that sort of thing. So if anybody has an interest in that kind of a discussion with any of us that are willing to be mentors, we're very open to that.
What is the website to get the information? You talk about Google Drive, but what is the?
Yeah, we've got it. Corinne can send that, right?
Which one?
The Google Drive access.
I think so.
There's a link. It's not a website.
It's not a link.
Yeah, I mean,
per se.
it's a link.
I mean,
From where to where?
well, it's a folder, it's a group of folders, and there's a top folder within Google's universe,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
and it's tied to our email. It's not a website or Facebook page or
So
something.
you have to have Google Chrome? or-
No. All you need is the link.
Okay.
And
So-
it's, 50 characters long. That doesn't, doesn't mean, that it's a bunch of
I know
random
what you mean.
characters.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why,
So then how do I get on that? You'll,
once you've got the link, and it's been in our minutes
oh, it's in the
We can
minutes.
send it again.
Okay.
repeatedly, and we've said it again.
I'll look in the minutes.
Yeah,
I have
or-
a few copies.
Or send an email to PWNCDC.
PWNCDC.
Yeah, Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition, Deschutes County,
Okay.
at gmail.com. I'm the guy that oversees that email when I'm not asleep. Or asleep. After a
I
swim.
was like, what is that?
I don't check it every day. And I'll get to the link. I'll respond to that link.
Okay.
Hey, Kevin,
We'll include it.
anything else on that? You want to do a quick grant update?
Sure, so, get back into the grant cycle, all the budget, has been approved, so we know our numbers now. We will go forth with a fuel reduction grant this fall, like we did last fall, it'll be very similar. We have 125,000 available this year, so hopefully that will, we'll be able to fund everyone. I don't know if we'll to what level, but we'll just see what we get for responses. The big piece of it now that we have gone through that bin rental pilot program, we kind of know how that's gonna work. So that will be a separate fund that you can also apply for as well. And so we'll have to have some kind of question in there with the bin rental program, just one, so people are aware of it, two, to make sure that if you were potentially gonna use your funds on bins, is there something else that you might be better utilizing that funds for? So like a chipping program, or doing common areas or defensible space just around the homes itself, like things like that. So you could couple those two programs together. You would get the funding from the grant award, and then you could participate in the bin rental program and use those to kind of combine those efforts. We thought we could do a chipping program, but on a county scale, there's just no way we could have the capacity to administer all those contracts. So I think it'd just be easier to fund people who would be interested in utilizing a chipping program, and then we'll have the bin rental program as well.
On that fall program, when do you apply by?
So we don't have a set date yet, but it'll probably be very similar to last year. Anticipated to have the application period in September for a month. And then that cycle will run through June 30th of 2025, just like we did this year. So I haven't gone through all the last reports. So if you haven't turned your report in, please make sure you turn your report in. That will be something we'll be considering, that if you didn't utilize the funds from the last grant cycle, it's going to be pretty hard to justify funding you again on the next grant cycle.
Kevin, on that note, you said those of us that used bins and did not get a grant did not need to give you a report.
No, not on that. You know, I'll have to think about that, what we could do for that. We might just have a simple report or something on that.
So that it doesn't look like we took the year
Yeah.
off.
I mean, I'm getting the receipts on the bins, so you're obviously using the bins. I mean, whether we need to have photos of you using the bins, I mean, I got a pretty good stockpile of photos of people using bins at this point. So I'll have to think about that, what we'll need, but it won't be nearly as extensive as handing out money. You know, that's where we really need to make sure we're getting good reporting.
But you're not saying that if you only did the bin program in 2024, you are not eligible for a grant?
No, we'll try and, I think for the bins, we're gonna try and fund anyone that's requesting bins. You know, just keep in mind that this is on a grant. This isn't gonna be indefinite. We have 2 more years that we could do this. I think we're gonna be able to show really good success within the county, not only the grant we received, but the grant Melissa received, and Greg and all the others, you know, Honors Pine and all the other ones that kind of been, that everyone has gotten the county. So hopefully in the next cycle, we could, you know, we'll have a much better idea of the process, and we can, you know, apply again and hopefully be successful. But who knows? I mean, that funding is, you know, on a fiscal basis, and I don't know what the outlook is after this grant cycle ends. So,
What did you roughly spend on the bin program? You know?
45,000.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a great program.
Yeah, and that's for 19 communities.
Yeah.
We have, I mean, I'd have to look at the numbers. We probably have roughly 75,000 available for next year, but I'm not quite sure. I'd have to look at the numbers. It's mostly because we underspent in that category this year. So we'll have a little more next year for that. So.
Was there
We're
a
gonna apply for
portal site where you had to submit the report?
Yeah, there's a link that I sent out for folks.
I don't have that. I'll follow up with you after.
Okay, we can get the link. If you don't have the link, let's get the link to you. I did send it out initially, everyone that received it, but I can always send that out again.
Can we put it on the minutes, or is that something that,
The link?
I don't know, through the portal? I don't know.
You just sent it to me, but
Yeah.
Just
I usually try not to
the
send that
grant.
like to
Yeah.
anyone and everyone, and mostly just the people that applied for this grant. But I'd say if you haven't returned in your report and you were wondering how to turn it in, just email me and I can send you the link.
Did that go to like the Firewise administrator? Like in our case, it probably went to our management company.
Whoever applied for the grant, whatever
I
that
think it's
contact
okay.
was
Yeah,
that
I
applied
haven't
for the
seen
grant, that's who received it. So keep that in mind. That's who's gonna get the report for that. And so if there was, I know on a lot of these HOAs, sometimes it's the, you know, administrators, or it might be your HOA administrator.
It's a management company in our case, I think, that does that, so I'll check.
Yeah,
with them.
we're trying to get a little more technologically inclined, but it's baby steps to get there, so. We've got an online application, but that was a,
I just got this thing.
that was a
trying to
big
figure out how to
process,
use it.
hand out paper application.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether we can get it into a streamlined grant process, you know, that's the goal of mine. I guess I can also mention that since the budget has been approved, we have been approved for a new position within our department, all 2 people for natural resources. So I'm gonna be working on the application process for that, to send out that announcement probably within the next month or so. The working title of that position would be a grants coordinator. So it's really trying to hone in on all these grants that we receive and stay on top of them, on all the reporting, because it is a lot of work. It's a majority of the work that I have to do, and it's really hard for me to do everything else. But you know, that will help us gain capacity for what we're already doing, but then we can also look at all the other grants that might be available out there as well.
So you can apply for the bin as a grant and the fall cleanup, like a separate grant.
Yeah, the bins we'll send out an application, and that'll probably be a pretty broad time frame. I'm thinking like January through March, so we can just keep, you know, pushing that people who are not aware are aware of it. And it's gonna be a much less rigorous process. You know, obviously we'll prioritize Firewise communities, but you know, that's how you get people into to become Firewise, is you prioritize Firewise, and then, I mean, this fall grant alone has probably sparked the idea of becoming Firewise. So.
That's what I lead with in my presentations is why become Firewise? Free money.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, really? So.
Well, and you get the support. I mean, you know, we're gonna come out with the assessments, and Nathan will help work on the evacuation plan, and it's, you know, it's just a way to, really, it's an avenue to work with communities on defensible space. So, that's kind of the grant in-house. There's not a lot going on right now. There are some larger grants that are gonna come up. Again, the Community Wildfire Defense Grant will probably have a new cycle this summer. That's a larger federal grant from the Forest Service. We have tried twice on that grant and failed. So it really hones in on underserved communities and communities that need help. So places that don't have CWPPs, people that don't have grant programs. I mean, we have all that. So, you know, sometimes you're so successful, getting grants is not as easy. And then there's also the Landscape Resiliency Grant, which is an Oregon Department of Forestry grant. There should probably be a new one that comes out as well. And both of those you can, if you're a nonprofit or an NGO, you will be eligible to apply, or county, city government, municipal departments, all those. So, cool. Yeah.
And we can look at Project Wildfire website and get all this information.
You know, Oregon Living with Fire I thought they were gonna come up with a website, like a one-stop shop website or a site to kind of keep apprised of all those grants. We probably won't do that on our website. It'll be more just what we're talking about now, putting them in our newsletters, things like that.
Okay.
So,
What's the grant you just mentioned? Landscape Resilience?
the Landscape Resiliency Project is a grant from the Oregon Department of Forestry. They've had 2 rounds of it. That was the one when Boone and Ed worked here. They applied and received it. They actually received, I think it was over $6 million they received. There's a lot of organizations that were funded in that. Unfortunately, because they were successful in that, the next round, we just weren't even considered. I mean, they didn't fund anyone that had received it originally. So that's, you know, you can apply as a county, you could apply as an individual organization, you could apply as a city. It's just, you know, that's one to consider. Again, it's gonna be hard pressed in Deschutes County unless you're an underserved community to probably receive that funding.
Oh, that's for the underserved.
It's not for the underserved, but that's highly considered, and same with the Community Wildfire Defense Grant. It's part of it's fire risk and underserved communities. They're kind of the two metrics that get you in the door, so. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No, there's a lot going on right now. Oh, one other thing, is if anyone, there's a Juniper talk, the Central Oregon Shared Stewardship Alliance is doing an all-day field trip. I know it's kind of last minute. Where's that at? I believe it's next week, but if anyone is interested in that, I think it's the 25th.
Today's
Thursday. What's the date on that? July 25th. If anyone is interested in going to an all-day field trip, it's actually more in Jefferson County on the grasslands. But a lot of really good presenters are going to be part of that. There's good conversation. So, you know, if you're trying to understand more about juniper and the ecology of juniper and removing juniper and things like that, that might be something you're interested. Anyone, I've already asked if anyone could go. I know it's a little last minute, but if you're interested, please let me know. We can get you the registration. Yeah, it's gonna kind of be in the Madras area. I think there's kind of a tour that they're doing. It's an all-day trip. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Central Oregon Shared Stewardship Alliance. They were the ones that kind of combined that landscape resiliency project. They've kind of fallen off a little bit in the last year, but they're starting to ramp up these field trips and presentations, so that'd be a really good one to. That's what we got in time.
Kevin, can anybody go to that? Because we have someone on our Firewise committee that's super into juniper knowledge.
Yeah, anyone can go. I mean, I don't know if there's
Brenda called.
a limit.
Oh, I'm putting it on.
Yeah, so, you know, let's see, so it starts at 8:30, it starts in Prineville at 8:30. The speakers are gonna be Tim DeBoot, who, Natural Resource Policy Coordinator with Crook County, Jim David, who's a soil scientist with Forest Service, Maddie Schreiber, district botanist with Forest Service, Monty Craig, forest wildlife biologist, Camille Brooks is a wildlife biologist with Confederate Tribes, Greg Jackie with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, Jamie Bowles with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and then John Deller owns a ranch that he's providing access to on some of the treatments. That
Do you have an address?
You would need to register, so I can send this to Corinne and we can just send this out. But,
okay.
You know, I don't want to bombard them with requests, you know, but if there are some people who are interested, we could have you registered for it.
Okay.
Let me, I'll forward this to you. And that's all I got, at least for now.
Okay. Well, thank you, and thank everybody for a really good discussion today. So,
I have one really quick thing to say.
you have what?
One really quick thing on outreach. So I have 2 events coming up, and it would be awesome to have somebody from this group or a couple somebodies from this group join me. Deschutes County Fair is coming up July 31st. It's a Wednesday from 9 to 3. I'm going to be running the wildfire booth there. I mean, we see hundreds of people. This would be such a great opportunity to have somebody come and talk about the Neighborhood Coalition if you're interested. So you just be with me and we'll sit at the booth from 9 to 3 and talk with people about what Neighborhood Coalition is in defensible space. So if anybody's interested, please get a hold of me. You all have my contact information, I think, and if you don't, please get with me after this. So that's July 31st. The second one is our Bend Fire Open House. That's our big event we do every year, September 28th from 9 to 2. That one is going to be at our North Station. So that's by the Sheriff's Department off of Jameson. I'm running the wildfire booth again, and I would love to have an actual booth right next to me for the Neighborhood Coalition. That would be excellent. So those are 2 big events where we're going to see hundreds of people. And if anybody's interested in volunteering their time, I would love to work with you. So let me know.
What's the time on the second one?
9 to 2.
And if someone could make a few hours of the fair, but not the whole 6
Oh,
hours.
yeah,
We could have a
absolutely.
couple people.
Absolutely. I will be
Okay.
there all day. I'll be there from 9 to 3. So whoever wants to even just come out for a little bit, talk about what this is when people ask, would be excellent. That's what I have.
Thank you, everybody. The next meeting will be August 15th. So hopefully see you then.
Only 6 minutes over, but good. Okay, oh, what do you got for me?
This is the same thing you gave me?
Yeah.
I said, okay, this one.
I spent the last 45 years
Yeah.
putting down
We're putting
junipers.
that in. I know they said that you were planning to do that. I'm glad you did.
Okay.
What a nice juniper. Ready to go.